Now, you can take command of Megaforce.
Enemy sighted!
Thorhammer in position!
Steady!
Tanks down!
Fire at will!
Bombs away!
Stratofortress! Release fighter jet!
Backlash bomber closing! Lock on target! Fire one!
Megaforce. Entire armies at your command. Stratofortress and other vehicles sold separately. You have to put them together. From Kent. Megaforce.
Welcome back to another Plasticon review. Today we're going to cover some Kenner Megaforce rocks style, starting out with this great gigantic Stratofortress. This Stratofortress is huge. It is every bit as large as Backlash. If you guys don't know about Backlash, you go back in my archives and actually have done a review of that particular gigantic air superiority vehicle. Stratofortress is a very baby blue color. It's got a lighter baby blue, which is kind of crazy that they actually chose these colors, but if you think about it, if you actually wanted to hide something in the stratosphere and it is very, very stealthy in design, this is a perfect way of doing it because you can't even see it in the air because it's literally blends in. This thing is loaded with detail and it's just awesome. I am really glad to have one that actually has a lot of stickers. Unfortunately my Backlash didn't have many, but Stratofortress here, let's go ahead and start here at the nose. The nose actually has some really cool cockpit detail all the way throughout this thing. And if you guys don't know anything about Megaforce, these things supposed to be like humongous. This thing right here literally would be the size of an airport that's flying in the air. So to get you a little bit of idea how the scale works here with the cockpit, it does have a turret here up top. Very teeny tiny turret is that at that. So a little triple gun. And on the bottom there is no turret or anything under here. I will get to that soon because there's a bunch of detail underneath this thing. Going along here you got a lot of panel detail. I am missing a sticker here, but it does have the 816 here on the other side. It's got just a lot of number detail throughout the whole thing. I'm getting here to this portion here, which is a secondary cockpit. Why? Because this right here would separate to be able to fly by itself. I'm going to go ahead and do that and give you guys a bit of a disclaimer. When you guys do find these guys, you need to be very careful with this. This particular part right here plugs in there fairly tight, but not way too tight. If you happen to get one of these brand new, you're not going to have as much of an issue, but as time can go by, these little prongs here will snap off, and if it does, there's really no way to attach this unless you glue it on or try to replace this part. I'm not absolutely sure if maybe a Lego peg or something like that would be quite this thick. This is actually a little bigger than that, so it'd be kind of hard to replace it if you did happen to have one that's broken. Just a little bit of a thing there to look out for, especially if you're looking for one of these in the aftermarket. But looking at this nose drone portion here, it's got a lot of detail on the underside of it. It does have its 1989 stamping right there. It just shows that, you know, this right here possibly would have had some kind of bomb bay, maybe some kind of nose gear, but this doesn't have any kind of landing gear whatsoever to it. Setting that portion there aside, look at the main enchilada portion, which is this whole back section. It does have some molded in guns right here in the front, which is kind of cool. And it's got a lot of sticker detail, view window tampos going all the way across here on the top. This section here is actually reserved for the placement of a jet fighter. The proper way to install the fighters is you want to slide it in. You never want to push down, because you push down you will possibly break it. What I like about this is the jet fighter's actual front landing gear will fit in between this right here, so it kind of gives it a little bit of a guidance. This is a cool little bit of detail they did not actually have to put in, and that's something I really like about this toy line. Just small things like that. A lot of sticker detail here showing, you know, where's possibly cautionary things here. Maybe these pop up to help refuel a plane when it's here or something. Moving here onto the wings. The wings themselves, they do maneuver and move out. I'll get into that gimmick here in a little bit. But it does happen to have more of the little turrets right here that move around on its wings, along with a lot of panel lining going on in here with the big rock symbol right there. Other side should have an O2 and also another little turret. Taking a look at the vending area. The vending area is pretty cool. I love this because this is like, you know, maybe this is how they help cool the entire gigantic system this thing would have in order to stay in the air for so long. And it also cools the inner bay on the inside of this thing. It does happen to have two larger cannons here that are on the back that do move back and forth. They're kind of cool. I do like the idea that they have turrets that move. I mean, I don't know about you guys, but when I see these things, I get that whole Raiden vibe from way back when we used to play that arcade game Raiden. I loved that game, that whole air fighter thing, and these kind of things just kind of, I don't know, it embraces that era, which is really cool. It does have twin wings here on the back on both sides, which is kind of cool. Not to mention some really cool thrusters here on the back. The engines really remind me of an SR-71, especially the way the pods are actually designed. I wouldn't be surprised if this whole section here was literally like kind of raw from an SR-71. They just cloned it here to put, you know, a secondary set of thrusters. A lot of ribbed detail on this wing here, and it's pretty cool. I do like all the detail. Taking a look at the underside of this thing. The underside of this thing has got a lot going on. As you guys can probably already notice, they do have a little bit of damage here. One of my little thin pieces here that sticks down actually is snapped off. But these I will get into here in a few minutes. It does have molded detail for landing gear right here. And not to mention some missiles molded in here, which are kind of cool. And then you got sticker detail here, which I happen to have a sticker here that's trying to come off. It's kind of hard to put these translucent stickers back down without actually getting like an actual type of glue to glue it back down. Some of these try to come up. I'm going to try to fix that at a later time. Has some nice little danger signs here on the very back. Not to mention a couple more little pieces of detail. It does happen to have places here for 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6 missiles. These missiles will actually plug onto these, very G.I. Joe style. It does happen to have a couple intakes here for some alternative thrusters that are underneath, which are really cool. And not to mention really awesome detail here for more molded in landing gear. The underside of the wings has a rock symbol, a lot of molded detail underneath, not to mention the O2 on this side, with the Kenner Parker Toys stamping right here. This thing is just loaded down even with detail on the bottom, which is crazy. I love the idea that they didn't skim out on anything with detail with these. These things are just phenomenal. It does have a alternative. This right here would be more of a control tower bay here at the top, along with a couple molded in cannons here on the back. Now, getting into the gimmick pretty much moved this thing here out, and the whole thing extends. Reason being is this is for an aircraft to land in, or even take off. This is an alternative kind of like repair bay, or maybe this thing needs to go into, you know, supersonic mode or something like that in order to tuck the bay away. It closes its wings and it pulls the bay inside. I love this geared gimmick. This is just awesome. And when you do this, you can reveal a lot more detail underneath the wings. And the wings look pretty cool when it's completely extended. I do like this thing a lot. This thing is really awesome, especially when it has the wings extended out like that. This kind of reminds me of a little bit of the B-1 bomber look, because the way the wings actually extend out as far as they do. The B-1 bomber actually has wings that extend out really far and then retract almost completely against the body like this one does. There's also the aardvark as well that does that. It's really awesome engineering. Let's get into this whole missile thing. As for the missiles for this thing, they are really cool little missiles. It comes with a pretty good payload, and the payload actually comes with two different types. Well, it's 3 sets of 2. You got these that are more or less like a cruise missile. It's got a little blunt end here on the end, and it does have that real dog bone thing going on. This dog bone thing is very apparent for a lot of G.I. Joe stuff. So I can see people getting these Kenner missiles mixed up with the G.I. Joe things because they literally are almost identical. Then you got the larger bomb, which is pretty cool. It's got a lot of molded detail, and I like the way they design these. It's very cool. It's even got a little bit of a thruster kind of thing sticking off here in the rear. And then you got these smaller, I would say this is more of a heat seeker type, with a really sharp tip, because this here would actually literally have like major acceleration because of the size. And that's what I like about these things, is the size of the missiles are all different as well, so you're not stuck with like the same kind of payload on it at all times. Now, something you can do with these missiles is you can install them on the bottom of the aircraft pretty easily. It's not hard to do this, and you can kind of put them anywhere you really want. I like to put the smaller ones back here toward the rear landing gear, mainly because I don't want it to like rub into anything. The larger bombs I like to put here, mainly because, you know, I think the larger payload would be in the center of an aircraft anyhow, just for center of gravity, and then your blunt ones would just be here on the ends. Obviously I'd be able to put this one here, but I can't because this part here broke off. Not much I can do about that unless I can find an entire new body, or find somebody that has just this bottom portion here I can swap out, which I really don't want to have to get into trying to take these guys apart, because these, as you can tell, there's really no screw holes. I don't know exactly how you would be able to pop this thing apart without damaging it. There's guys out there I know that are pretty good at doing that kind of thing, but I wouldn't want to risk it, especially with the age of these, because these things age pretty well, but I've seen them break pretty easily, especially that part right here dealing with the front jet piece attaching. Now, something else I wanted to talk about is this little teeny tiny plane. These smaller jets I've already done a review on, but this one here would actually come with a black version of this. It's got some yellow and red markings all over it as well. It's actually identical to the leader version of the Jet Force. Obviously it would come with the double cruise missile that would be mounted on the bottom. That is the only thing that I don't have for this, unfortunately. But it's really difficult trying to find just those little planes by themselves, because most people out there are selling their entire Kenner lots at once, and when they do, you might find that plane in there and you might not. You might end up with this plane and like 2 of these that might be in really bad condition, or you never know. I mean, it's such a crapshoot when it comes to trying to acquire some of these at times. But like I said, trying to get a hold of these smaller planes, pretty difficult to do. I mean, they are fully die-cast, so it's not like you're really going to find these damaged that often. The only thing I could probably see if anything did get broke, if you did happen to try to get these, maybe the smaller fins are on the bottom. Maybe the pin, anything like protruding out, I would say. These plastic missile things here tend to get lost quite often, so that's a real hard part to find. Very difficult to find these. This right here is something that I don't even know if any of you guys can actually probably find any of these online anywhere that won't cost you an arm and a leg just for a silly little piece that literally is about the size of like a machine gun for an old Star Wars figure. You also have these little fins there on the back that could possibly get damaged, but I mean, for the most part, these are pretty solid little die-cast planes. You're gonna find these rarely ever broken. This guy here, like I said, the big thing that I look out for is that attachment piece for this, because that's where I'm seeing a lot of these broken, other than the missile portion at the bottom. Anyhow, this has been Plasticon. This has been yet another Megaforce review. I'll see you guys around because I have plenty more of these guys coming your way. That's it for now. Bye!